Hello, hello. Today we're talking about the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, especially in terms of literature. So let's start right away. Okay, so the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, here we have the definition, but I guess I'll read from my notes. So it was, first of all, let's focus on the fact that the word brotherhood is very much gendered, so it was mainly a male movement, but there were some women. It was founded by 7 quote-unquote brothers. They weren't blood brothers, but they sort of, treated each other like kin. And they formed in order to rebel against the trends represented by the Royal Academy. Because the Academy was supposed to support artists and was very formal, and they sort of believed that the Academy was detrimental to how the art was developing at those times. So they returned to medieval and early Renaissance artists and were inspired by them. It's called Pre-Raphaelite because they believed that the works before Raphael were the most beautiful, so medieval and early Renaissance. They sought simplicity and beauty, they paid specific attention to minute details in nature and in clothing, they used interesting colours, and it was quite realistic, maybe even idealized to certain points. They loved to represent women in their paintings because the Brotherhood was mainly for paintings, and only some sort of contributed their poems. So the point was to revolt against capitalism, which according to the Brotherhood was the cause of ugliness in life. Because the Industrial Revolution and capitalist perception had gotten so popular, beauty was lost, and in order to recover the beauty, they had to focus on nature. So these guys here, these are the Rossettis. There was Dante Gabriel, Christina Georgina, and William Michael. So Dante and Christina are the 2 most well-known ones. William was the less popular brother, but he did write memoirs about his other siblings and he edited their poetry, so I guess he had some influence. This is what some pre-Raphaelite art looks like. So this has a bad quality. The picture is kind of grainy. It probably looked better in real life. But as you can see, loads of flowers, focus on her beautiful dress, she's a woman. And, okay, so now into the poems. I'll focus on the ones which we had during our literature classes on Fridays. First poem, Robert Browning. He was one of our representatives. I mentioned him while talking about the dramatic monologue in the last quick video lecture. So Browning had a poem, My Last Duchess. It contains a dramatic monologue, so someone speaks to a silent audience while subconsciously showing own personality traits. And in the poem, we have a duke who talks about his late wife to a person sent by the father of his new partner. Kind of complicated. And the duke sort of starts telling the story of what happened to his late wife, and in between the lines we can sort of read that he had his wife killed because he was jealous of her. And active reading allows people to see the hidden meanings within the monologue. This is an important aspect of what dramatic monologue does. He tries to hide his true intentions under this facade, but it's quite visible if you pay attention to it. So, okay, that's Robert Browning, My Last Duchess. Next up, we have The Blessed Damozel. This is by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. He's probably the most popular representative of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So it's a ballad dedicated to a dead lover. There are 2 main speakers and a narrator. So these characters have a sort of dream vision where they meet. The damosel is dead already while her lover is still alive. And dream vision is a literary device in which a dream or vision is recounted as having revealed knowledge or a truth that is not available to the dreamer. So they sort of fall asleep and they learn new things about situations relating to them. So they meet up in his dream vision. She's leaning out of heaven and she feels lonely and she wants him to join her. It's mentioned that sort of he knows she's not there, but he feels her presence, he feels her hair on his face. He's unable to move on and is still heartbroken despite 10 years passing. And in this poem, heaven is shown as a sort of bad place because it's a prison that separates the dead lover from the lover who is still alive. The main theme is undying love, and the form is used to create a nostalgic sense of the past and to show Victorian era Gothic interests, so sort of elements of the supernatural, and this love which lasts for eternity. The next poem by Rossetti is Spheral Change, and in this poem it's a man which we can assume to be Dante himself, who writes a poem as a way of dealing with the death of his wife. So he longs for her and he still has hope that someday they will meet again. He writes the poem to his wife, she's the addressee, and while hoping that they will be reunited after death, he feels as if he is suffering on earth, and where exile changed for sanctuary, our lot may fill indeed its sum, and you may wait, and I may come. Okay, sorry. Childish. So currently he feels as if he's exiled on earth because he's separated from his wife, whereas he sees death as an escape or a sanctuary where he will once again be happy. So that's enough for Dante. Next up is Christina Georgina, his sister. And here we talked about her most interesting poem, When I Am Dead, My Dearest. So she has a totally different approach to death and love. While Dante and Browning were sort of like, no, I want to love forever and I never want to be apart and I hope we can still love each other in heaven and I miss you so badly. Christina instead writes that when you die, and if you want to remember me, but if you don't, sort of move on with your life, I'm dead anyway. It was an unconventional view about mourning, and a complete opposite to her brother. She was very religious, so it was kind of surprising that she had this view, but she was also sort of down to earth, I guess, and I like her approach a lot. The last poem by Christina Rossetti, which we focused on, was Eve, and it's sort of a retelling of Eve's perspective of her sins in the Garden of Eden, and it's basically just a poem of her feeling grief, loss, and regret for everything that happened. She says, I, Eve, sad mother of all who must live, I, not another, plucked bitterest fruit to give to my friend, husband, and lover. Who but I should grieve, can have slain his brother, of all who must die mother, miserable Eve. So it sort of shows her approach to religion. I think she was religious, and there's not much more I can say. I don't have any notes on this poem. Just know that it exists. And one final fun fact, we had this in a different literature lecture, but her most famous poem was Goblin Market, and this was the first poem that brought commercial success to the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. So despite it being so focused on men, she was the first one to sort of hit it off and get famous a bit. So yeah, that's everything for the video. Next up is George Eliot and Mill on the Floss. Bye bye.